Well, there's one main disagreement that we're facing here, Yvonne, and that is what's the way forward on Bougainville's political future? Now, we have to go back over the history here. In 2019, people in Bougainville voted overwhelmingly for independence. Some 98% of voters said that they did want full independence, but that result was non-binding and it still has to be ratified by Papua New Guinea's parliament. Now, there is basically a disagreement right now between the autonomous Bougainville government on one side and the government of Papua New Guinea on the other side over exactly what threshold the parliament needs to reach in order to ratify the results. The PNG's government is saying that a full 2/3 of parliamentarians need to vote in favour of it in order for this to become ratified and for Bougainville to be granted a pathway to full independence. The argument from Bougainville is very different. They say that really all that Parliament should be doing here at all is rubber stamping an overwhelmingly clear result, an expression of the popular will of the people, and if they're going to insist on a vote that actually ratifies it, well then at the very least it should only be 50%, in other words a simple majority. Now obviously they're two very different things and it could well be the difference between success or failure of the vote, and unsurprisingly we're at a bit of a political impasse at the moment, with both sides simply unable to find a way forward over this very profound disagreement. So that's the situation at the moment, and that's why the governments of both Bougainville and Papua New Guinea have been casting around through the United Nations looking for someone who can be appointed as a moderator to try and help both sides reach an agreement on some of these really difficult questions.
So tell us more about who's been chosen for this position and what role he will play exactly.
Well, as you said at the outset, Yvonne, Sir Jerry has been chosen as the moderator. Now, this hasn't yet been officially announced. I'm told it has been conveyed to both the President of the ABG as well as James Mateparae, the Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea, and that there is an agreement, but there's still a process they have to go through. So this announcement hasn't yet been made, but we're told it will be coming in the coming days or weeks. Now, why have they chosen Sir Jerry? I think a couple of reasons. The first is that he's got standing in Bougainville. In particular, he led a peacekeeping contingent in Bougainville in the 90s when the entire island was really roiled by serious violence that left large numbers of people dead. He played a critical role in the peace agreements that were struck in the late 90s that brought the violence to a close and charted a political pathway forward. And on top of that, he's also got an impressive record in New Zealand. Not only was he Governor-General, he was also head of the armed forces and has also had senior diplomatic roles. So he's seen as someone who's got credibility in Bougainville, but he's also someone who's got a distinguished track record within the region more broadly and within New Zealand in particular. So I think the thinking of both sides is that he's someone who would attract respect on both sides of the divide and someone who would also be able to command the attention and respect of other governments in the region, including the governments of New Zealand and Australia. So that's why he's been chosen. Now, what role will he play? Well, we'll have to wait and see exactly what the moderator's position is and exactly how it's enunciated by both governments. But I think he's basically going to try and play the role of trusted interlocutor, to try and bring some form of compromise, to try and explore or pose new ideas for new pathways of compromise over exactly what this political process might look like, and also not only calm temperatures and come up with constructive ideas, but also more broadly keep everyone focused on the end result, which is not just reaching a political settlement, but making sure that things don't spiral out of control and that we don't see a fresh outbreak of unrest or worse on the ground. It's worth remembering just how bad the violence was in the 1990s and just how difficult the situation remains right now, even though the situation in Bougainville right now is very, very keen. We saw Ismail Taurama, the president of the autonomous Bougainville government, warning only a few days ago in an interview with the ABC's The Pacific programme that people might, quote, revolt in Bougainville if they felt like the political situation wasn't accommodating them. Now, he was very quick to say he wasn't talking about war here. He was sort of talking about a broader sense of political revolt and unrest. But obviously, this is something that is deeply concerning, not just to the government of Papua New Guinea, which is trying to chart a course forward here, but also to other governments in the region. The last thing they want is a fresh conflagration of unrest or even worse, violence in the region at this very fraught time.
And when are we likely to get a formal announcement of this decision from the autonomous Bougainville government and Papua New Guinea's government?
Look, I think that depends on a couple of things. One, how long this internal process takes. He has to go through, as we mentioned, the governments have to go through a couple of official steps. And then, of course, there's also the looming vote of no confidence that James Mateparae is facing in Papua New Guinea this week. Now, it's possible, I'm speculating here, but it's possible that that vote of no confidence will disrupt that announcement process and could push it back by quite some time. But a decision has been made internally. It's now out in the news, so you'd imagine that both governments would want to kick it formally into the public sphere sooner rather than later.
Stephen, thank you.
Thanks, Yvonne. Appreciate it.